Jack Miller wiped his hands on his worn blue overalls and squinted at the massive alien ship hanging in orbit above Earth. The view through the shuttle's viewport still didn't seem real to him. 6 months ago, aliens were science fiction. Now, they were sending him urgent messages asking for help. Still can't believe they called me, Jack said to himself. At 32, he had fixed everything from Nebraska farm equipment to space station modules, but an alien spacecraft? That was new. The radio crackled. "Mr. Miller, this is Linda Perez from NASA Communication. The Federation vessel will dock with your shuttle in approximately 5 minutes. Please prepare for transfer." "Copy that," Jack replied, double-checking. His toolkit. Nothing fancy. Just the basics he'd used his whole career. He ran his fingers through his short brown hair and took a deep breath. The docking procedure was smoother than any Earth technology could manage. A soft hiss, a gentle bump, and the airlock door slid open to reveal his welcoming party. Jack tried not to stare, but it wasn't every day you met actual aliens. The first creature had 6 limbs and bluish skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Behind it stood 3 other aliens of different species, all wearing what Jack guessed were uniforms. "I am Zix Vora, Administrative Officer of the Galactic Federation vessel Luminous Path," the blue alien said, its translator device giving its words a slightly metallic sound. "You are the human maintenance specialist?" Jack stepped forward, extending his hand before remembering that these beings might not shake hands. He awkwardly converted the motion into a small wave. "Jack Miller, maintenance engineer. I understand you folks have an airlock problem." Zixavora's large eyes blinked in what might have been annoyance. "Yes, a most inconvenient malfunction that our engineers have been unable to resolve. Captain Creel has approved your presence as a consultant, though I must note this is highly irregular. Federation protocols rarely allow non-member species aboard our vessels, especially ones at your technological level." Jack bit his tongue. He'd been warned about the Federation's attitude. They saw humans as barely more advanced than cave people, despite humanity's achievements in space exploration. "Well, I'm here now." "Why don't you show me the problem?" Jack said, lifting his toolkit. As they floated through the ship's gravity-free corridors, Jack couldn't help but be impressed. The vessel was a marvel of technology, with surfaces that seemed to glow from within and doors that opened before anyone reached them. Engineer TX, a tall, thin alien with 4 arms, and what looked like copper-colored scales joined them halfway to the damaged airlock. The engineer's body language needed no translation. Complete skepticism. "This is most unnecessary," TX said, not bothering to address Jack directly. "The issue is clearly within the quantum field stabilizer matrix. We simply need the replacement, parts from the central fleet, which are 4 days away at best," Zixvora countered. "The captain wants functionality restored before then. Our atmosphere is leaking, however slowly." TX made a sound that might have been a snort. "And you believe this human can achieve what our top engineers cannot?" Jack had dealt with this kind of attitude before. Early in his career, fancy engineers with degrees from top universities had looked at him the same way when he arrived. At the International Space Station, they had stopped looking down on him after he fixed the water reclamation system they had been puzzling over for weeks. They arrived at the damaged airlock. 3 more alien engineers hovered nearby, manipulating holographic displays filled with complex equations and diagrams. They barely acknowledged Jack's arrival. "This is our primary external airlock," Zixavora explained. "It has been malfunctioning for 3 days. The outer door will not seal properly and the emergency override systems are non-responsive." Jack approached the control panel. "Mind if I take a look?" The aliens stepped back, watching with what Jack interpreted as amusement. The control panel was unlike anything he'd seen before, but certain principles of engineering were universal. He spotted what appeared to be an access panel and looked at Zixvora. "May I open this up?" Tex made that snorting sound again. "The problem is not mechanical. It is clearly in the quantum field alignment." Jack smiled politely. "Maybe so, but I'd still like to see the physical components." After getting reluctant approval, Jack opened the panel, Inside was a complex array of technology that made Earth's most advanced systems look like children's toys. But beneath all that sophistication, there were still basic mechanical parts: hinges, seals, pistons, and circuits. "Could you show me the diagnostic readings from when the problem started?" Jack asked. The aliens exchanged glances. One of them waved a hand and a holographic display appeared showing a timeline of events and error codes. Jack studied it carefully. Something wasn't adding up. According to this, the outer door started malfunctioning first and then your computer systems began showing errors, is that right? "Correct," said one of the engineers. "The quantum field matrix began destabilizing shortly after the initial mechanical warning." Jack nodded. "And have you tried bypassing the computer system and manually cycling the airlock?" The alien stared at him as if he had suggested they flap their arms and fly. "That would be extremely dangerous," TX said. "Our systems are integrated for safety. Bypassing quantum safeguards could lead to catastrophic decompression." Jack scratched his chin. "Mind if I see the actual airlock door?" Reluctantly, they led him to an observation window where he could see the external airlock door. Jack pressed his face close to the transparent material, examining the massive door from different angles. "There," he said suddenly, pointing. "See that?" The aliens crowded around. Where Jack was pointing, a small piece of debris was lodged in the door track, something that looked like a broken fragment of equipment. "That's your problem. Something's stuck in the track, keeping the door from sealing properly. Your sensors detected the incomplete seal and shut down the system. Then your computer tried to compensate by adjusting quantum fields or whatever, which created more problems." The aliens stared at the debris, then at Jack, their expressions unreadable. "That cannot be the only issue," TX insisted. "Our diagnostics would have detected such a simple problem." "Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one," Jack replied. "Your advanced computers might be looking for complex problems and missing the obvious. It happens on Earth, too." Captain Creel arrived then, his imposing figure filling the corridor. The captain had 4 eyes set in a face covered with small tentacles, giving the impression of a walking octopus in a military uniform. "Administrator, Zixavora tells me you've identified the issue?" the captain asked, his translator making his voice sound deep and resonant. "Yes, sir," Jack said, pointing out the debris. "Something's stuck in your door track. Clear that, reset your systems, and you should be good to go." Captain Creel stared at the debris for a long moment, then at his engineering team. "Is he correct?" The alien engineers looked uncomfortable. Finally, TX spoke. "It is possible, but removing the debris would require an EVA, and resetting the quantum field stabilizers is not a simple process." Jack opened his toolkit. "I can handle the EVA if you've got a suit I can use. As for resetting your systems, I'll need your help with that part." The captain considered Jack for several moments. "Very well, human. We will prepare an EVA suit for you. But I warn you, if you damage our vessel further, there will be diplomatic consequences." Jack nodded, trying not to smile. It wasn't the first time someone had doubted him, and it probably wouldn't be the last. As the aliens prepared the equipment, Jack caught Zixavora watching him with what might have been curiosity. "You seem very confident, Mr. Miller," the alien administrator said. Jack shrugged. "Sometimes the most advanced technology needs the simplest fix. Your people asked for help, and I'm just doing my job." Behind them, the ship's warning system flashed again as the oxygen levels dropped another fraction. Jack knew the clock was ticking. Time to show these aliens what a primitive human could really do. The alien EVA suit felt strange on Jack's body. It was lighter than Earth spacesuits, but somehow stronger. The material moved with him like a second skin. "This is amazing," Jack said as he tested his range of motion. "What's it made of?" "Engineer." TX made a dismissive gesture with one of his forearms. "A simple molecular bonded fiber mesh with reactive pressure sealing. Standard Federation technology for the past 80 years. Jack smiled inside his helmet. To these aliens, their incredible technology was ordinary. They had no idea how far ahead they were compared to Earth, or how that same advancement had made them blind to simple solutions. "The EVA hatch is ready," Zixavora announced. Our systems calculate you have 16 minutes of useful work time before the ship's rotation brings that section into direct solar exposure. Should be plenty, Jack replied. I just need to clear that debris and check the track for damage. Captain Creel stood nearby, all four eyes focused on Jack. I must emphasize, Mr. Miller, that this vessel represents a significant investment by the Galactic Federation. Any damage will be avoided, Jack finished for him. I've been doing space repairs for 10 years. I know the stakes. The captain's tentacles rippled in what might have been skepticism, but he nodded. The airlock chamber that still worked cycled open, and Jack pushed himself out into space. The Earth hung below him. A beautiful blue marble that still took his breath away no matter how many times he saw it. Focus, Miller, he muttered to himself. Using the suit's thrusters, he maneuvered toward the damaged airlock. The ship's hull was enormous, stretching out in every direction like a metal landscape. I am monitoring your progress, TX's voice came through his helmet. Please do not touch anything beyond the specified repair area. Jack didn't bother responding. He reached the damaged airlock and immediately spotted the problem. A piece of metal about the size of his palm was wedged in the door track. It looked like part of a broken maintenance drone. Found it, Jack reported. Looks like you had some kind of small robot that broke apart. A piece got caught in the door track. There was a pause before TX replied. That is unexpected. Our maintenance drones are programmed to return to their bays before mechanical failure. Well, this one didn't get the memo, Jack said. He pulled a simple tool from his belt, a modified pair of needle-nose pliers he'd brought from Earth. I'm going to extract it now. Wait, TX interrupted. Our protocols require a full scan and risk assessment before debris removal. Jack looked at the piece of metal. It's a broken drone part. If I don't remove it, your airlock won't seal. What's there to assess? He heard Zixvora's voice now. Let him proceed, Engineer TX. Captain Creel has authorized emergency protocols. Jack carefully positioned himself and began working the pliers around the debris. He had to be careful. One wrong move could send it deeper into the mechanism or damage the door track itself. Almost got it, he said through gritted teeth. The piece was wedged in tightly. It's really in there. Inside the ship, the aliens watched through external cameras. Linda Perez from NASA was also on a video link watching Jack's progress. Is he going to make it? She asked. Zixvora's large eyes blinked rapidly. Your engineer seems competent, but this is a delicate procedure. On the hull, Jack finally got a good grip on the debris. With a careful twist, he pulled it free. Got it, he announced, holding up the piece of metal for the camera to see. Now let me check the track for damage. Jack moved his gloved fingers slowly along the track where the door should seal. There's some minor scoring in the metal here, but nothing that should prevent a proper seal. Your door should work now. He heard what might have been sighs of relief from multiple aliens. Excellent work, Mr. Miller, Captain Creel said. Please return to the ship immediately. Jack did a final check of the door mechanism before pushing away from the hull. Coming back in. Once back inside and out of the EVA suit, Jack found himself surrounded by alien engineers, all examining the piece of debris he'd recovered. It is indeed part of a maintenance drone, TX admitted reluctantly. Model ZR-7 assigned to external hull inspection. Mystery solved, Jack said. Now we just need to reset your systems and cycle the airlock to make sure it works properly. TX. Move to a control panel. That will require recalibrating the quantum field stabilizers and running a complete system diagnostic. The process will take approximately 7 hours. Jack frowned. 7 hours? Why so long? Our systems are integrated at the quantum level, TX explained as if talking to a child. Each subsystem must be properly aligned with, Can I see? Jack interrupted, stepping toward the control panel. The alien engineers exchanged glances before reluctantly moving aside. Jack studied the holographic display, trying to make sense of the alien interface. It was complex, but he could recognize certain patterns. Your system is overthinking the problem, Jack said after a few minutes. You don't need to recalibrate everything, you just need to tell the computer that the obstruction is gone and cycle the door manually to prove it. TX made that snorting sound again. That would bypass 17 safety protocols. Sometimes that's necessary, Jack said. Look, your ship's atmosphere is still leaking. Do you want to fix it now or wait 7 hours? Captain Creel, who had been watching silently, stepped forward. Explain your approach, Mr. Miller. Jack pointed to different parts of the display. From what I can tell, your system locked down because it detected an obstruction. Now that the obstruction is gone, we need to override the lockdown. Manually cycle the door to prove it works, then let the computer resume normal operation. That is unusually direct, Zixavora observed. It's how we do things on Earth, Jackie replied. Sometimes you need to get your hands dirty and fix things directly instead of letting computers do everything. Captain Creel considered this, his tentacles moving slowly. Proceed with the humans method, but be prepared to engage emergency containment if necessary. TX clearly wanted to object, but followed orders. Together, they began implementing Jack's solution. Jack guided them through the process, pointing out which systems needed to be temporarily bypassed and which could remain active. Okay, now we manually cycle the door, Jack said when they were ready. Everyone tensed as TX initiated the command. There was a long pause, then a series of mechanical sounds as the damaged airlock door finally moved. It opened fully, then closed, sealing properly for the first time in days. The atmosphere leak warning on the ship's display faded away. Airlock function restored. A computerized voice announced, "All systems nominal." The alien engineers stared at the display in disbelief. What their advanced systems estimated would take 7 hours had taken less than 30 minutes. Well done, Mr. Miller, Captain Creel said, his tone suggesting he was reevaluating his opinion of humans. It seems there is value in your direct approach. Jack shrugged. Sometimes the old ways work best. Zixavora stepped closer to Jack. This raises an interesting question. If your primitive methods can solve problems our advanced technology cannot, what other insights might humans offer? Before Jack could answer, an alarm blared through the ship. The holographic displays flashed red with warning symbols. What now? Jack asked, looking around at the suddenly tense aliens. Power fluctuation in the main drive system, TX reported, hands moving rapidly over the controls. All decks affected. Backup systems not responding. Captain Creel turned to Jack, his 4 eyes narrowed. It appears we may require your primitive expertise again, Mr. Miller. This is a far more serious problem than a simple airlock. Jack took a deep breath. He was in deeper than he'd expected, but he couldn't back down now. Show me what's happening. Maybe there's a simple solution to this too. As the aliens led him toward the engineering section, Jack couldn't help wondering what he'd gotten himself into. Fixing an airlock was one thing. Fixing an alien starship's main drive was something else entirely. But sometimes, as he'd learned throughout his career, the most advanced technology still needed a human touch. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the ship as Jack followed Captain Creel and the alien engineers to the main engine room. Crew members rushed past them, their faces showing what Jack recognized as worry, despite their alien features. How bad is it? Jack asked as they hurried through the corridors. The main power core is experiencing unexpected fluctuations, TX explained. If we cannot stabilize it soon, we may need to jettison the core to prevent catastrophic overload. Jack's eyes widened. Jettison? As in throw away your main power source? Safety protocols, Zixavora said simply. Better to lose the core than the ship and all aboard. They arrived at a massive door marked with alien symbols that Jack guessed meant danger or restricted. Captain Creel placed his hand on a sensor, and the door slid open to reveal the engine room. Jack had to stop and stare. The chamber was enormous, at least 3 stories high, and filled with equipment unlike anything he had ever seen. At the center was a glowing blue column that pulsed with energy. Around it, alien engineers worked frantically at control stations. That's your power core? Jack asked, pointing at the blue column. A quantum fusion reactor, TX said. It harnesses energy from artificial microsingularities. Very standard technology. Jack wanted to laugh. There was nothing standard about harnessing black holes for power, but he kept that thought to himself. And what's the problem with it? A new alien approached them. This one had green skin and moved with a strange floating motion, as if gravity affected it differently. Chief Engineer Mal, Captain Creel said, "This is the human engineer who resolved our airlock issue. Perhaps he can offer insight here as well." Mal's large eyes blinked several times as it looked Jack up and down. "The power regulators are failing in sequence. We cannot determine why. The AI diagnostic systems show no clear cause." "Mind if I take a look?" Jack asked. The chief engineer hesitated, then gestured to a control panel. The displays were filled with alien writing and diagrams that Jack couldn't understand. "Can you show me the physical layout of the system?" Jack asked. "I need to see how everything connects." After some discussion among the aliens, they brought up a three-dimensional hologram of the engine room. Jack studied it carefully, trying to make sense of the unfamiliar technology. "These are your power regulators?" he asked, pointing to a series of devices surrounding the core. "Correct," Mal confirmed. "They manage the energy flow from the core to the ship's systems. They are failing one after another, and we cannot determine why." Jack thought for a moment. "When did the problem start? Was it right after we fixed the airlock?" The aliens looked at each other. "Yes," TX admitted. "Approximately 8 minutes after the airlock was restored to operation." "And before that, how long had the airlock been malfunctioning?" Jack asked. 3 standard days, Zixvora answered. Jack nodded slowly as an idea formed in his mind. "I think I see the connection. When the airlock was stuck open, your ship was losing air, right? But it was also venting heat from that section." The aliens listened, looking confused. "Your ship's cooling systems probably adjusted to compensate for the heat loss through the airlock," Jack continued. "When we fixed the airlock, that heat had nowhere to go, and your cooling system didn't readjust quickly enough." Chief Engineer Mal blinked rapidly. "That is possible. But our thermal regulation systems are automated." "Sometimes automated systems don't adapt to sudden changes," Jack said. "On Earth, we always build in manual overrides for that reason." Pointed to the hologram. "Can you show me your cooling system layout?" The hologram changed to display a complex network of pipes and mechanisms throughout the ship. Jack studied it carefully. "There," he said, pointing to a junction near the repaired airlock. "That cooling bypass valve is almost fully closed. It should be open wider to handle the increased heat load now that the airlock is sealed." The alien engineers checked their readings. "He is correct," one of them admitted with surprise. "The valve is at 12% capacity. It should be at minimum 40% for current conditions." "Can you open it manually?" Jack asked. Chief Engineer Mal made a gesture that might have been the alien equivalent of a frown. "That would require overriding the automated system, which is exactly what we need to do," Jack insisted. "Your computer is still thinking there's a heat leak through the airlock. It needs to be updated." Captain Creel looked at Jack for a long moment, then at his engineering team. "Do as he suggests. Open the bypass valve manually." The engineers worked at their control panels. After a tense minute, one of them announced, "Bypass valve now at 50% capacity." Everyone watched the main display showing the power core's status. The warnings continued to flash. "It's not enough," Jack said. "The heat buildup is already affecting your power regulators. We need to cool them directly while the system catches up." "Impossible," TX stated. "The regulators are sealed units. Direct cooling would require shutdown." Jack ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Then he had an idea. What about the maintenance drones? Could they apply cooling to the regulator housings from the outside? The aliens looked at each other again. "That is not their designed purpose," Chief Engineer Mal said slowly. "But could they do it?" Jack pressed. After some discussion in their own language, the aliens agreed it might work. Captain Creel gave the order, and soon a dozen small robots were dispatched to the power regulators. Jack watched on the display as the drones attached themselves to the regulator housings. Now have them channel their coldest operating fluid against the housings, he instructed. The alien sent the commands. For several tense minutes, nothing seemed to change. Then, slowly, the warning lights began to dim. Regulator temperatures dropping, one of the engineers reported. Power fluctuations stabilizing. A collective sound of relief came from the alien crew. Jack noticed that even Captain Creel's tentacles relaxed slightly. "It appears your solution is working, Mr. Miller," the captain said. "Most unexpected." "Sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones," Jack replied. "Your technology is amazing, but you rely on it too much. When something unexpected happens, you need to be able to think outside the box." "Outside the box?" Zixavora repeated, clearly confused by the idiom. "It means thinking beyond your usual methods," Jack explained. "Trying solutions that might seem strange but could work." As the power core fully stabilized, the emergency lights shut off and normal lighting returned. The tension in the room eased noticeably. "I believe we owe you a debt of gratitude, Mr. Miller," Captain Creel said formally. "Your primitive perspective has proven valuable twice now," Jack smiled. "Happy to help. But you might want to review your automated systems. Build in some manual overrides and simpler backup options. Not everything needs to be controlled by quantum computers." Chief Engineer Maul approached Jack. "Would you be willing to consult further on this matter? Your approach to problem solving is different from ours, but clearly effective." Before Jack could answer, another alarm sounded. Different from the previous one, but still urgent. "Now what?" Jack asked. Zixavora checked a display. "Communication from Earth. Your NASA director wishes to speak with you immediately. It appears there is a situation developing at your International Space Station." Jack looked at Captain Creel. "I should take that call." The captain nodded. "Of course, but afterward I would like to discuss the possibility of you remaining aboard temporarily as a consultant. Your expertise has proven more valuable than anticipated." As Jack followed Zixavora to the communication room, he couldn't help smiling to himself. The aliens who had looked down on humans as primitive were now asking for his help. Sometimes being primitive had its advantages. Jack followed Zixavora to the communication room, wondering what could be happening at the International Space Station. The room was smaller than he expected, with several screens showing different views of Earth and space. "Connection established," Zixavora announced, pressing something on a control panel. The largest screen flickered and the face of Steve Clark, NASA's Director of Operations, appeared. He looked worried. "Jack, thank goodness." "We have a situation at the ISS," Steve said, his voice slightly distorted by the alien communication system. "What's going on?" Jack asked. "Life support systems are failing," Steve explained quickly. "They've been having issues for the past 12 hours, but things just got critical. They're down to backup systems only, and those are showing signs of strain." Jack frowned. "What about the repair team from Houston?" "They're prepping for launch, but it'll take at least 18 hours before they can reach the station. The crew might not have that long." Jack glanced at Zixavora, then back at the screen. "How many people are up there right now?" 5. 2 Americans, 1 Canadian, 1 Japanese, and 1 European, Steve replied. "Jack, I know you're in the middle of something with our new friends, but we need your expertise. You know those systems better than anyone." Before Jack could respond, Captain Creel entered the room. He had obviously been listening. "Your space station is in danger?" the captain asked. Steve looked uncomfortable seeing the alien captain. "Yes, we're doing everything we can, but your vessel could reach the station quickly," Jack said to Captain Creel, interrupting. "Much faster than any Earth ship." The captain's tentacles moved slowly, which Jack was starting to recognize as a thoughtful gesture. "We are not authorized to interfere with Earth facilities." "It's not interference if we ask for help," Jack argued. "There are 5 lives at stake." Captain Creel was silent for a moment. "This is irregular. The Federation Council has strict protocols about assisting pre-member species." Zixavora stepped forward. "Captain, if I may, the human engineer has assisted us twice now. Perhaps this is an opportunity to repay that debt." Jack held his breath as the captain considered this. Finally, Creel nodded. Very well. We will transport Mr. Miller to your space station and offer technical assistance. This will be classified as a diplomatic exchange rather than intervention. The relief on Steve's face was clear even through the slightly distorted image. Thank you, Captain. We appreciate any help you can provide. After the call ended, things moved quickly. The alien ship changed course, heading toward the International Space Station at a speed that made Jack's previous shuttle ride seem like a snail's pace. We will arrive in approximately 20 Earth minutes, TX informed Jack as they prepared for the mission. That's amazing, Jack said. It would take hours in one of our vessels. TX made a sound that might have been amusement. Your propulsion technology is quite quaint. Jack was getting used to these backhanded comments. Maybe. But I bet your life support systems aren't that different from ours in basic principles. Some things are universal. The alien engineer didn't respond to that. Captain Creel assembled a small team to accompany Jack to the space station. TX, Chief Engineer Mal, and a medical officer named Vryn. We will dock with your station using a specialized connection tube, the captain explained. Our atmosphere is different from yours, so we must maintain separation while allowing personnel to move between vessels. Jack nodded. Makes sense. The station crew will be surprised to see you all. We have informed your NASA of our approach, Zixavora said. They are anxious but accepting of our assistance. Soon the massive alien ship slowed as it approached the International Space Station. Jack looked through a viewport and saw the familiar shape of the ISS. It looked tiny and fragile next to the Federation vessel. Connection tube extending, TX announced. Jack watched as a flexible tunnel extended from the alien ship toward the station's emergency docking port. The precision of the maneuver was impressive. Connection secure, Mal reported. Atmosphere seal is stable. Jack put on a simple breathing mask that would filter the slight differences between the ship's air and Earth's atmosphere. The alien team didn't need such devices. Their environmental suits adjusted automatically. They moved through the connection tube and into the International Space Station. The station's emergency lights were on, bathing everything in a dull red glow. The air felt stuffy and warm, a bad sign for the life support systems. 5 astronauts waited for them at the entry point. Despite the situation, they couldn't hide their amazement at seeing actual aliens boarding their station. Jack Miller, said Susan Harper, the station commander, floating forward to meet them. Never thought I'd see you arrive with an alien escort. Strange times, Jack replied with a smile. This is Chief Engineer Mal, Engineer TX and Medical Officer Vryn. They're here to help. Susan nodded to the aliens, clearly trying to maintain her composure. Thank you for coming. We've got multiple system failures in the primary and secondary life support modules. CO2 levels are rising and temperature control is failing. Show me, Jack said. Susan led them to the life support control station. Jack immediately began examining the displays and system readouts. The aliens watched over his shoulder, their own devices scanning the station's technology. Main oxygen generation is completely offline, Jack noted. Backup system is running at 30% capacity. CO2 scrubbers are clogged, and there's a power drain somewhere that shouldn't be happening. He turned to the alien team. Any insights from your scans? Mal stepped forward, holding up a device that projected a holographic image of the station's power systems. There appears to be an energy feedback loop in your electrical system. It is drawing power from life support to feed itself. Jack studied the hologram. That shouldn't be possible with the isolation protocols, unless someone bypassed them, Susan suggested. Or something, Jack muttered. He accessed the station's maintenance logs. Look at this. 3 weeks ago, you installed a new experimental power management system from the European Space Agency. Susan nodded. It was supposed to increase efficiency. It's creating a feedback loop, Jack explained. The new system doesn't communicate properly with the older American and Russian modules. It's trying to optimize power usage, but it's actually creating a drain that's affecting everything else. TX examined the hologram more closely. a compatibility issue between different technological standards. We see similar problems when integrating technology from different Federation species. So how do we fix it? Susan asked, glancing nervously at an alarm that showed rising carbon dioxide levels. Jack thought for a moment. We need to isolate the new system, restart the life support from scratch, and then carefully reintegrate everything with proper communication protocols. That would take hours, Susan objected. We don't have that kind of time. Perhaps we can help. Vryn spoke for the first time. The medical officer held up a small device. This atmospheric processor can temporarily manage your oxygen and carbon dioxide levels while you work on the permanent solution. Jack looked at the alien device with surprise. That tiny thing can handle life support for the whole station? For approximately 6 hours, Vryn confirmed. It is a standard emergency device on all Federation vessels. Susan looked relieved. That would give us the time we need. With the immediate crisis addressed by Vryn's device, Jack and the engineers got to work. The aliens were fascinated by the station's technology, both impressed by human ingenuity and amused by what they saw as crude solutions. You use mechanical pumps for your water recycling? TX asked, sounding somewhere between horrified and amazed. They're reliable, Jack defended. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. As they worked, Jack noticed that the aliens were actually learning from the human technology. Despite their advanced knowledge, there was something about the practical, hands-on approach of human engineering that seemed to intrigue them. Your species values redundancy, Mail observed as they restored the life support systems. 3 backup systems for critical functions. Jack nodded. We plan for things to go wrong. It saved lives more times than I can count. After several hours of intense work, the station's systems began to come back online. The proper isolation protocols were in place, and the experimental power system was now communicating correctly with the older modules. Life support restored to full function, Susan announced with relief. CO2 levels dropping and oxygen generation at 100%. The station crew cheered. Even the aliens seemed pleased with the outcome. Thank you, Susan said to Jack and the alien team. We wouldn't have made it without your help. Captain Creel's voice came through their communication devices. Well done. However, we have a new situation developing. Our sensors have detected an incoming micrometeoroid shower, heading toward both our vessels. We must depart this position immediately. Everyone on the space station froze at Captain Creel's warning about the micrometeoroid shower. How long do we have? Susan asked, her voice tense. Approximately 12 minutes before impact, came the captain's reply. Jack looked at the station crew, then at the alien team. The station's shields aren't designed to handle that kind of impact. We need to get everyone aboard the Federation ship. Agreed, TX said. Our vessel has superior defensive capabilities. Susan shook her head. We can't abandon the station. There's years of research data and equipment here that can't be replaced. Jack understood her concern. The International Space Station represented decades of work and billions of dollars of investment. Losing it would be devastating for Earth's space program. What about your ship's shields? Jack asked TX. Could they be extended to protect the station too? The alien engineer's eyes blinked rapidly. Extend our shields? That is not standard procedure. But is it possible? Jack pressed. TX and Mal exchanged looks. Theoretically, Mal admitted. But it would require reconfiguring our entire defensive grid and would significantly weaken our own protection. Can your ship withstand the meteoroid shower with reduced shields? Jack asked. Yes, TX said after a moment. Our hull plating alone could handle such impacts, but extending shields to an external structure has never been attempted. Jack turned to Susan. If we can't extend their shields, we need to evacuate now. Susan looked torn. Then she had an idea. What about using your ship as a physical shield? Position it between the station and the incoming meteoroids. Now it was Jack's turn to look surprised. He glanced at the alien team. That would place our vessel at risk, TX objected. But you just said your hull could handle the impacts, Jack pointed out. Captain Creel's voice came through again. "We are monitoring this discussion. The suggestion to use our vessel as a shield is unexpected. It would save the station," Jack argued. "And you said your hull can take it." There was a pause before the captain responded. "This would be highly irregular. Federation protocols do not recommend placing vessels at risk for non-Federation facilities." 10 minutes to impact, a computerized voice announced. Jack made a decision. "Captain, your ship has already broken protocols by coming here. These people need help, and their station represents humanity's greatest achievement in space. Please." The silence that followed felt like the longest of Jack's life. Finally, Captain Creel spoke. "Very well. We will position our vessel to shield your station. All personnel report back to the luminous path immediately." Relief flooded through Jack. "Thank you, Captain." The station crew quickly gathered essential items while Jack and the alien team returned to the connection tube. Once everyone was aboard the Federation ship, the tube retracted and the massive vessel began to move. Jack joined Captain Creel on the bridge to watch the operation. The main screen showed the Federation ship maneuvering carefully into position, placing itself between the space station and the incoming danger. 8 minutes to impact, the ship's computer announced. "All crew to secure positions," Captain Creel ordered. "Reinforce forward hull plating and divert emergency power to critical sections." Jack watched in amazement as the alien crew carried out these orders with perfect precision. The ship hummed with energy as systems were adjusted and power redistributed. "This is an impressive ship," Jack said to the captain. "Thank you for doing this." Captain Creel's tentacles moved slowly. "Your species is surprising, Mr. Miller. You operate with technology far inferior to ours, yet you have accomplished much, and you think in ways we sometimes do not." "Different perspectives have value," Jack replied. "That's something worth protecting." 5 minutes to impact, the computer announced. On the main screen, they could now see the approaching micrometeoroids, thousands of tiny rocks moving at incredible speeds through space. "Will your crew be safe?" Jack asked, suddenly worried about what he had asked them to do. "Our vessel is designed to withstand far worse," Zixvora assured him, though Jack noticed the administrator seemed less confident than usual. 3 minutes to impact. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Jack watched as final preparations were made, wondering if he had made the right call in asking these aliens to risk themselves for a human station. 2 minutes to impact. "All personnel brace for impact," Captain Creel announced shipwide. Jack gripped a nearby railing. The screen showed the cloud of space debris growing larger as it approached. 1 minute to impact. Captain Creel turned to Jack. "Mr. Miller, your people have a custom before facing danger together. I believe it is called good luck." Jack smiled despite the tension. "Good luck, Captain." Impact in 30 seconds. The bridge fell silent. Jack could hear only the soft hum of the ship's systems and his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. Impact in 10 seconds. 9, 8. Jack held his breath. 3, 2, 1. Impact. The first meteoroid struck the ship with a series of dull thuds. Then came more impacts, dozens, then hundreds of tiny rocks striking the hull at tremendous speeds. The ship shuddered slightly but held firm. On the screen, Jack could see small flashes as the meteoroids hit the hull, some bouncing off, others breaking apart on impact. For nearly 2 minutes, the barrage continued while everyone on the bridge watched in tense silence. Then, gradually, the impacts lessened until they stopped completely. "All impacts ceased," reported an alien officer. "Hull integrity at 97%. No critical damage detected." A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. Captain Creel turned to another screen showing the space station, completely untouched behind the protective bulk of the Federation ship. "Station status?" the captain asked. "The Earth station is undamaged," came the reply. "Their crew sends their gratitude." Jack felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "Thank you, Captain. You saved our station." Captain Creel made a gesture that Jack hadn't seen before, something like a bow. It was the right decision, even if unorthodox. Perhaps that is something we have learned from you, Mr. Miller. In the hours that followed, the Federation ship moved away from the station. Repairs were made to the minor damage from the meteoroid impacts, and the station crew returned to their home with heartfelt thanks. Before Jack departed, Captain Creel called him to a private meeting in the ship's conference room. Zixavora was there along with TX Mal and several other high-ranking aliens Jack hadn't met before. Mr. Miller, the captain began, the Federation Council has been informed of the events of the past 2 days. Your assistance has been noted. Jack nodded, unsure where this was going. As a result, Creel continued, the Council has authorized me to offer you a position as a consulting engineer aboard this vessel. Jack's eyes widened in surprise. We have discovered that, despite your species' technological limitations, your approach to problem-solving has considerable merit, Zixavora explained. You see solutions we often miss. There is much we could learn from each other, Mal added. Jack was speechless for a moment. You want me to work on an alien spaceship? As an official consultant? With appropriate diplomatic status, Creel confirmed, and with permission to return to Earth regularly, of course. We believe this arrangement would benefit both our peoples, Zixavora said, a first step toward greater cooperation. Jack thought about it. The opportunity was incredible, to work with technology beyond anything humans had developed, to learn from alien cultures, to help build a bridge between Earth and the stars. I would be honored, Jack said finally, but I have one condition. The aliens looked at him curiously. I want to bring a small team of human engineers with me, Jack explained. Different perspectives, remember? If we're going to learn from each other, we need more than just one human viewpoint. Captain Creel considered this, then nodded. A reasonable request. I will seek approval from the Council. In the meantime, Zixavora added, perhaps you could begin by helping us redesign our airlock mechanisms. They seem unnecessarily complex in retrospect. Jack smiled. I'd be happy to. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. As he looked around at his new alien colleagues, Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. Just days ago, these beings had considered humans primitive and barely worth notice. Now they were asking for his help, his perspective, his human way of thinking. Sometimes being primitive meant seeing what others had forgotten to look for, and in the vastness of space, there was room for all kinds of intelligence.